Knoll. Knoll on a knoll. Knoll hearing a knoll on a knoll. Knoll hearing a knoll while knolling on a knoll. I have no idea where I was trying to take this joke. The road to hell is paved in good intentions is one of the most common terms of phrases used to describe characters, both good and evil. But it's so common a phrase for a reason. A lot of people do bad things when they are genuinely trying to help the world and its people. Leon, Knoll, and the scholars of Grotto all poured hours upon hours of blood, sweat, and tears into research of the Dark Stone, and all they had to show for it was a tragedy that nearly brought a dark end to the world and people they all sought to protect. To start at the beginning, each nation of the continent of Magvel had this funky little rock called a sacred stone, a mystic artifact that helped seal away this big bad dude named the Demon King Fomortis many moons prior to the start of the game. However, Grotto's sacred stone was a bit more special than the rest, as it was the one that actually held the soul of the Demon King, making its magic more powerful than any of the other stones. The Crown Prince of Grotto, Leon, and his royal mages, notably among them his friend Knoll, sought to use the dark magic of the stone for the forces of good. However, Leon's father Vigard disallowed the mages from directly using the stone, believing that fucking around with the Demon King's soul was probably a bad idea. So Knoll and the mages made do with the energies the stone emitted, and for years studied it and its powers to see if they could use it. After some time, though, tragedy struck when Emperor Vigard passed away due to illness. It's never said what it was, so I'll just say the illness was bonitis. Yeah, bonitis. Leon and the mages were devastated over the loss, and changed the focus of their research in finding a way to bring Vigard back to life. For a year, Knoll and his colleagues tried to tap into the power of the stone, observing it directly now that Vigard was no longer around to hold them back. And after that year, their progress bore fruit. Leon was able to successfully bring back his father from the realm of the dead. Okay, let me ask you something. Leon and Knoll played God using the power of an ancient evil that they were heavily advised not to use. What happened next? Was it A, Knoll and Leon did great wonders for the world and lived happily ever after, showered in praise and good times? Or was it B, they fucked with a power that they shouldn't have and unleashed a calamity upon their world and nearly brought it to ruin through their arrogance? I'll give you time to answer. What the fuck do you think? Leon gets possessed by the demon lurking within the magic of the stone, becoming a monster far cry from his true self. He then imprisons the mages that helped him, killing them off one by one until only Knoll remained alive, and sets off to invade Castle Renee for reasons unknown. Knoll's life is ticking away to an end, but as the date of his execution is but a day away, he is rescued by Prince Ephraim of Renee. Knoll then goes into a massive exposition dump, telling Ephraim all the backstory that I just told you, and afterwards joins Prince Ephraim, resolving to help stop the events he himself helped set in motion. And with that, I want to discuss Knoll's functionality as a unit, being the lone shaman in all of Sacred Stones, unless you turn you into the dark side of the Force. Excuse me. Now, normally I don't talk about unit quality that much, but Knoll is a really funky case as a unit in a lot of ways. For starters, he's part of Sacred Stone's route split units. Regardless of if you pick Ephraim or Erica, you can recruit every unit in the game, though the times you recruit them will differ depending on the route. For example, you can recruit Dussel and Inez on Chapter 10 for Ephraim and Erica respectively, but the other twin won't get them until the routes reconverge on Chapter 15. Knoll is alongside Dussel as a Ephraim route character, being recruited at the end of Chapter 14 for Ephraim, and when the routes reconverge at the start of Chapter 15 for Erica.
Wait a minute!
Yeah, that's right. Knoll, weirdly enough, has the exact same recruitment fundamentally, despite how he's framed as an Ephraim character. I mean, it's not like that important, but I just thought it was odd that he's recruited in such a weird fashion. The other weird thing about Knoll as a unit is his infamous base 0 in luck, which is really funny to me and a lot of other people. Like, Even units who are known for being terrible in a particular stat at least have some kind of base in that stat. For example, Arden is infamous for being really slow in lore and as a unit. He still has a base speed of 4. Arthur's entire gimmick is that he is so unlucky that it feels like the universe itself is out to get him. He still has a base luck of 1. Knoll's luck, being a big fat 0, is just unusual and goofy, and because of that, really memorable. And considering that his actions inadvertently caused the revival of Satan, maybe that 0 in luck is a bit warranted for him. Okay, so Knoll's luck being 0 is warranted. But you know what else is? Me, to your money! I'm warranted to your money. This was a much more clever segue in my head. For those of you who don't know, I have a Patreon over at patreon.com/FEMSPaint. In exchange for as little as $3 a month, you can have your name featured on these major videos and even get them read aloud for $5 a month. Those patrons include Atomic X160, Dell, follow Penta the North Star on Twitch, subscribe to Great Riek, Green Brigand, Hell on Heelys, Hollow, Kieran Morin, Lightning Bolt, Me Do a Gamer, Memi, Nember, Nevrix the Fallen Shield Guy, Ranger Man Sam, Rory O'Carroll, Ryan Walter, Space1255, Steph D, Tato, Anti-Ginger, Brentendo11, Drew Hack, and Michael Hamilton. And if you pay $7 a month, you can get access to polls to decide the future videos on the channel. Right now, it's a close race for villains, where we've got 4 of them lined up, and honestly, any of them could take it. So, with all that done, let's get back to the action! And speaking of his actions, it's time to look into them by investigating his supports with General Dussel and Sister Natasha. He does also have a support with Loot, but it's more of our comic relief support that doesn't really have anything I want to explore for this video. So I'm going to bring it up to acknowledge that it exists, but then quickly throw it into the corner of the room and forget all about it. Now, I'm going to start with his Natasha support, as not only does it help flesh out Knoll's character, but also helps build on Leon's character and the lore of Magvel as a whole. The support begins with them actually recognizing each other, as they both came from Grotto Castle where they worked. However, they've never actually spoken before, as Knoll teases that clerics saw the dark mages of the court as, quote, shadowy and sinister, a sentiment Natasha can't deny. Natasha wishes to know the truth about Leon, Vigard, and the message her mentor died to give her, a warning about the dangers of the Sacred Stone. Knoll tells her that it might be for the better if she just accepted whatever it was her mentor had told her and didn't try to explore the truth farther than that. After all, Knoll is certain that her mentor referred to the Dark Mage research he and Leon did as, quote, sacrilege and loathed their entire existence. He remarks that Natasha and the cleric's holy magic stems from faith, the ability to believe in holy powers that they do not and will never understand. Conversely, Knoll and the Dark Mage's magic stems from knowledge and understanding. They distrust uncertainty and must know all there is to know, even if it's things they're better off not knowing. Setting up this schism between the magical arts is a bit of world building that Magvel, frankly, doesn't really do at all, so Knoll gives a nice glimpse into the inner workings of the world and its people. In spite of what Knoll believes to be an impassable schism in their fields, Natasha presses on with her questioning. She wants to know just what the hell Knoll sought to accomplish with the Sacred Stone. Knoll reveals that they had discovered an ancient arcane art, the ability to see the future and know what events will one day come to pass. With this knowledge, Knoll and the other mages sought to see calamities before they happened, and avert such a fate from ever coming to be. Natasha starts to remark that such work is blasphemous, that trying to change fate on such a scale should not be done. Knoll's response: it's one of my favorite bits of dialogue by any FE character in the entire series, so I'm just going to say it in its entirety. There's a lot to unpack, so, without any further interruptions... Are you saying that, knowing the future, we should do nothing? We should simply allow people to die in order to preserve fate? I'm sorry. I don't mean to sound hostile. Prince Leon himself was troubled by these same doubts, you see. But we pressed on with our studies. We felt it was our duty, in the interest of all Grotto's people. Perhaps we were bitter that we received no credit for aiding Grotto. that we receive no accolades for our research, for the benefit it brings? I don't know. But we pressed on nonetheless. The misconceptions linking the ancient magics to evil die hard and slow. Prince Leon sought to change that. He wanted, as we all wanted, to prove our magic had good uses. With our aid, Prince Leon predicted a great storm rising in the south. He barred ships from leaving port, and oh, how the people complained. But the storm came, and the seas raged. We saved countless lives. And Prince Leon cared not at all if the people loved him for it. He only wanted them to be safe. And now, I see it all so clearly. All our research amounts to nothing. All I can do now is lament our hunger for knowledge, our greed. First of all, it presents the issue of what it means to play God, and shows that it's not just black and white. The mages were also not certain if the path they walked was correct. It also helps show that the prejudice against the ancient arts that Knoll was talking about isn't just between mages and clerics. The dark arts are feared and misunderstood by many, helping flesh out the conflict a bit more. Third, it gives Knoll a bit more of a selfish motive than simply saving people. He's poured years and years of his life into saving people, and all for them to continue to deny his work is sacrilege. That hint of bitterness is made all the more clear to him in hindsight, and Knoll can only look back and regret all the failures of his life, giving a self-reflection to his actions that helped us understand Knoll's headspace. His support with Dussel, like Natasha, is about asking Knoll about the truth of the events happening in Grotto. Dussel is much more direct than Natasha, though, and makes him get to the point much faster, and the truth Knoll tells him and Natasha is horrifying. Around when Vergard died, Knoll and Leon had successfully used the Future Seeing spell, and saw Grotto ravaged and destroyed by a terrible earthquake. Quote Knoll, "We tried to disprove what we had seen, but nothing could shake the vision. In this disaster, Grotto would be destroyed. Countless would die. Those who died quickly would be spared the slow horror of starvation." And of course, in trying to avert this calamity, the mages had created one that ravaged the entire continent. Needless to say, Knoll's feelings of regret might have been a little warranted. After speaking this revelation, Knoll tells Natasha that she should flee the country, that perhaps fleeing to Renee or Frelia will save her. Natasha refuses, though, saying that she will remain in Grotto to save those who will be in peril due to the disaster, which is a bit ironic given her earlier belief that the Future Sight power was sacrilege. Knoll muses to himself that such self-sacrificial behavior is the true difference between mages and clerics, but finds that he too wants to follow Natasha's lead. Even though staying in Grotto will likely invite certain death to them both, they resolve to remain and help all of those that they can. For Knoll, this is what it means to follow in Leon's vision. His support with Dussel ends in a similar fashion, with Dussel encouraging Knoll to live on in spite of his regret and sorrow. Knoll expresses a sentiment that perhaps he should have been executed, as with Leon gone, Knoll has lost all that once gave his life meaning. Dussel tells Knoll that, quote, "You cannot see the future, but you can look back at your past. Look and learn, and remember what gave your life meaning, and what has taken that meaning from you now. If you still hold the convictions that guided you in Grotto, you can start anew. That is what I must do. We may be diminished by our shame, but we are not dead yet, my friend." Knoll remarks that he does not have the strength that Dussel has, but even still, he will try to find that new path to walk. However, his ending is very cryptic as to whether or not he actually walks that path. In fact, the implications are not so bright. He does go back to Grotto and work to fulfill Leon's visions of a peaceful and prosperous land, likely helping with the earthquake and the repercussions of it. However, once Grotto is back on its feet, he vanishes, never to be seen or heard from again. Given his talk with Dussel, and that his death quote is about him at last finding peace in the darkness of death, the implications of what Knoll did are very uncomfortable. I don't think it's a stretch to say that he could have taken his own life over the guilt of his actions. And honestly, Such a dark ending is kind of fascinating to me. Endings like his, Sonia's in Shadows of Valentia, or Eloise in Thracia, I do really like that sometimes characters don't get happy endings. Not every story ends on a happy note. Some people's lives don't work out in a happy or cheery way. Knoll is almost a man who's just guilt in physical form. He carries the burden of his sins with every step that he walks. All one can do for people like him is hope that maybe, in the next life, they find the peace that they could only dream of. Thanks so much for sticking around to the end of another FE MS Paint character analysis. I know we went back to Magvel when some regions only have a few character videos on them, but it's my favorite game, so I don't have the bias that I want. As always, I would like to thank the Green Brigand for helping with the script, and just all in all being a dependable friend for me to rely on. If you enjoyed the video, please like the video, comment on the video, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, subscribe to the Patreon, and please just subscribe. At the time of writing this video, I am at 1,990 subscribers, and I'm so close to 2K, and I just want it. Please give it to me! Until next time.
Change the world. My final message. Goodbye.